Next, we have the Community Development Report with that committee's chair, Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. There are 9 items on our agenda for approval this morning. Item number 1 is a land sale. Item number 2 is approving the City of Falcon Heights to issue bonds for the Hiawatha Academy's charter school. Item 3 is a 6-month extension of development rights to Everward Development for the Grainbelt Marshall Street site. Item 4 is a contract with the Community Reinvestment Fund. Item 5 is a resolution authorizing an amendment to our agreement on Botno Lofts financing. Item 6 is the local plan for our Workforce Investment Act. Item 7 are appointments to the MPHA Board of Commissioners, the Public Housing Authority. Item number 8 is a deed grant, and item number 9 is the East Downtown concept approval. I'll move items 1 through 8 and hold off on number 9. I plan to move the Ways and Means agenda.
Councilmember Goodman has moved items 1 through 8 on the Community Development Report. Anyone want to pull anything off? Any discussion on any of those items? Seeing none, clerk, call the roll on items 1 through 8.
Councilmember Colvin Roy.
Aye.
Tuthill.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Hodges.
Aye.
Samuels.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Hofstede.
Aye.
Schiff.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
Those items are adopted. On item 9, Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to move item number 9, the Ways and Means budget action.
Okay, Councilmember Goodman has moved the Ways and Means report for item 9. Any discussion on item 9? Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you, Madam President. I have an amendment for number 9 that I would like to move.
Okay.
It should be before everybody. It would be, I mentioned it yesterday as well, if you may recall, amending a very specific fine detail of the general framework in which Ryan companies would have an option to purchase from the city the westerly 1/3 or approximately 36,000 square feet of the west yard block. That's block 4. According to the framework, the price was explicitly set at $71 per square foot, or approximately $2.5 million. I would like to delete that section and say that it should be set at fair market value at the time of sale.
Councilmember Gordon has moved a change to delete the language at $71 a square foot and adding at fair market value at the time of sale for the framework for the development and the Ryan Company's development. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would like to speak to it if I could.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead, Councilmember Gordon, then the mayor is going to speak.
Thank you. I think this is a fine detail, and I was a little surprised that it was actually listed in a general conceptual framework of that. And I have a couple concerns that this grew from. One was the investment that we're putting in and what we're getting back. I wasn't sure if it balanced out. I think the biggest thing that the public is getting out of this, and I know that there's jobs, I know that we're growing the tax base, and there's those general kinds of things, but more directly for the $65 million that we're putting in, the biggest thing we're getting back is this public park. And I'm concerned that we really don't have enough of our investment going back in there to make sure that it is a public park. Also, from the outset, apparently we're agreeing to sell back a sixth of that. I discussed this at committee and asked some questions, and it became clear that we're selling it back. We would be selling it back if Ryan wants it, and they indicated they thought they would, at the same price that they're paying for it now. And my sense was we're going to have holding costs. There's going to be improvements that could be made over those 2 years, and I don't know why we'd want to get lock in at that low, potentially low price. I'd be comfortable having no price listed, but I also think that it might be reasonable to say we're willing to sell it at fair market value, and that might be a better way to go, and that's what I have before you today.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Councilmember Gordon. I strongly support the intent of what the councilmember is doing here today, which is try to get us the very best deal for the money. One of the things we have to remember, however, is that this will be a deal with multiple deal points. And I don't know how many of you have played that game of Jenga, where you have all these different things all stacked up together, and then you pull one out and the whole thing collapses. This will certainly not collapse if this thing is pulled out by any stretch of the imagination. But I do want to say that in these negotiations from here to the conclusion, we're going to have a lot of variance. I would love to go in there without our hands tied, and with an intent like this, if this passes, we can do this. If it doesn't pass, we can do that too. But if you give a little here, you have to get a little there, and vice versa. My hope is that we can serve the spirit of what the council member is talking about here by actually having something else that I'm quite interested in, which is to increasingly, it's clear to me that if there's interest in this block, that we should sell it earlier rather than in a couple of years, so that we can actually get that revenue and begin to make those improvements. So if we get that in the negotiations, we'll have accomplished this, and that point will be moot. So in any case, whether this passes or not, and I can see it one way or the other, I just want you to know that there are multiple deal points that will come together. I definitely get the spirit of what you're talking about. But the final point is, let's make no mistake, this will be a public park. Under no circumstances will I be involved in this if this is not a public park. This will be a public park. The question is really how much resource do we have to develop it to the degree that we want to. So I appreciate your focus on that detail. I certainly have my eye on that too, and would prefer generally not to have our hands tied in the negotiations, but if this is the direction you want to go, it's certainly one I'm going to try to get to.
Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Madam President. As those of you who were in committee know, I spoke out very forcefully in favor of this project because right now it's a concept approval. And I have to say, Councilmember Gordon did what he was supposed to do. He didn't wait until the entire thing was negotiated and then said, I don't like this one point. He came forward early in the process. He said it in committee. It was discussed. We all heard it. My understanding of what's happening is there are multiple sites that will have development rights going forward, and they might be sold individually or they might be sold together. I think what Councilmember Gordon is doing is actually just telling our friends at Ryan, buy early while the price is low. And I don't think, and so I don't really think that there's a problem with that. I think that we want to know that so we could potentially use that money for this park. And so I don't think the intent is to say we want you to build all of these improvements and then we'll charge you, $115 a foot. We're saying if you believe in it like we do, buy it early at the price we bought it for, and we're before any improvement goes in, and you'll be our partner in that regard. So I don't see any problem with this one piece because we're all working towards that. It might mean we have to give a little on some of the development rights in a different location as well. But I do think Councilmember Gordon did this fairly and brought it forward in a timely manner, and I respect that. It would have been much more difficult should this have been completely negotiated to have someone come forward and say, no, we don't like that price. And I know you agree.
Could you clarify that when we talk about multiple development parts, this is the only part of the yard?
Yes, I'm sorry, thank you. The mayor wanted me to just point out when I speak to the issue of multiple sites to development, I mean the area around it, not the yard itself. There is no intent of selling off portions of the yard for development. This is development potentially above a ramp or a liner parcel around a ramp or other property in the area. This is the only site that we might be in a position to create a really unique urban retail focus onto this park and use that funding to fund the park itself. So I'm not. I think it's okay to vote for what Councilmember Gordon said, knowing that in the negotiation we'll probably have to give something else in order to get this. But they still have
exclusive. Councilmember Colvin Roy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, thank you, Councilmember Goodman, for being willing to move the Ways and Means motion, which specifically says that this park is not yet named. It is not yet named. We will be looking for an operator of the park, and the best known and best, most accomplished operator of green space in our city is the Minneapolis Park Board. I really think they should be involved in naming it if they're going to be expected to run it, as well as the community. Small point when it comes to dealing with multiple millions of dollars, but really not a small point because name is a very important part of branding. And this is a park that we hope and intend will be a park for 100 years. So The name has not yet been chosen if the motion passes today. Second point, I'm really glad to hear that nobody is talking about our willingness to use the opportunity to develop a small portion of that land as taking away park. That early discussions and articles referred to it as selling off part of the park. Point that was apparent to me immediately, and many other people, thankfully, is that the neighbor to that land to the west is a jail with no windows. So we would completely, if we do not use that end of the land for constructive use, we would completely lose the benefit of having a park adjacent to one whole city block. I mean, part of the advantage of parks throughout the city is the same as the advantage of water. It improves the property value of the adjacent land. So why would we want to develop a lovely park and have one whole block be a windowless jail? So I'm really happy to be able to vote today for a concept that includes a park that is not yet named.
Any further discussion on Councilmember Gordon's amendment? Seeing none, all in approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? That carries. Then on the committee of the whole, the Community Development Report, item 9, Downtown East Development Proposal. Oh, I'm sorry, Ways and Means Report. Thank you. Ways and Means Report on the Downtown East Development Proposal. Any further discussion? Seeing none, clerk call the roll.
Councilmember Colvin Roy.
Aye.
Tuthill.
Aye.
Quincy.
Aye.
Glidden.
Aye.
Goodman.
Aye.
Hodges.
Aye.
Samuels.
Aye.
Gordon.
Aye.
Reich.
Aye.
Hofstede.
Aye.
Schiff.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
President Johnson.
Aye.
There are 13 ayes.
That report is adopted. Congratulations on great new development in our city.